Welcome back to another Scouching report, and today I'm really excited because we're going to take a look at teeny tiny little diminutive winger from the Vancouver Giants, Cameron Schmidt. Now, if you're unfamiliar, my name is Will. I track data and watch games of NHL draft prospects throughout the entire season, and we summarize what they bring and maybe some areas of potential improvement in reports at the end of the season, and that's where you are now. So welcome. So before we get into the specifics of the actual video, let's take a look at exactly who Cameron Schmidt is. Now, Cameron Schmidt is one of the most exciting players available in this draft, in my opinion. In terms of pure skill, finishing ability, just pace of play, there's a lot of things that I think are going really, really well for Cameron Schmidt, especially talent-wise. He is really small, and I know there's a lot of people who are very questioning of a player's size being how important it is and where they go from here with regards to the NHL game. And the thing about Cameron Schmidt that I think kind of helps him out quite a bit based on my viewings of him, both in person and in the video and in the data, I really do think that he is enough of an antagonist, enough of a physical presence, enough of a real thorn in the side of the opposing team where I feel like he could make up for it once he gets to the NHL. Obviously, as you can see from some of these clips, the shot is just blisteringly fast. Some of the skilled moments here are just unbelievably good. And with Cameron Schmidt, I think more of what might be the issue that we'll get into is sort of those fundamentals can at times let him down. And what I mean by that is his style of play and his natural tendencies, which lean pretty heavily offensively, really require borderline perfection on execution. You know, and not skating into pressure, not coughing up the puck in tough spots, not overhandling the puck, making sure your shot opportunities count. And I feel like that's where Schmidt does have some work to do. But at the very end of the day, you're getting an unbelievably talented young player who has a lot of abilities in terms of shooting and increasingly, I'd say, a playmaker, and that passing ability is there. But at the end of the day, I think you're getting a really, really exciting player who's a high energy, high pace guy who probably will go later in the draft than he probably should on draft day. And I feel like he might be a bit of a long shot, but I think he's a long shot worth betting on relatively quickly in this year's NHL draft class. So let's get right into some of the specifics here and see what Cameron Schmidt brings to the table. So Cameron Schmidt is here on this play, and one thing about this play is I think it shows just how confident Schmidt can be on the puck. He's a guy who wants to have the puck on his stick in the offensive zone, and you're already sort of seeing in this clip, I think, a little bit of these tendencies that might be a bit of an issue. He is not necessarily the quickest guy in the world along the boards, and in an NHL scenario, in this situation, he's probably going to face some pretty significant defensive pressure. So in my mind, I would like him to just dish the puck, you know, somewhere else on this play, for example, at this point, or earlier in the play. I mean, he does eventually, and they manage to keep the cycle going, but I think it showcases there's a lot of confidence here. He does have a nice little skill move there, shakes off pressure there. It's just going to be a matter of when to do that in the NHL and when not to. So this was just a nice little starter to dig into and maybe see a little bit of what we might get into over the course of this video. And here's another really good example of the potential of Cameron Schmidt, and also where you can just look at him play hockey and you go, is this going to be an NHL player? Is this guy going to do this in the NHL? And so let's just take a look at this rush here. So he basically runs this himself. He's down here right near the goal line, gets the puck and shakes off a defender, or a forechecker, I should say, behind the goal line there. And then he just is off like a shot. This is what I mean by he kind of has to be perfect, though. He skates right into pressure there, takes a high stick maybe. And on this play, for me, I look at him and I go, yeah, I see the quickness, right? He's getting out of the defensive zone really quickly, but how quick is he actually going, considering he's 5'7"? Is the speed of his game really that high end when there might be bigger players who don't look as fast? Because it feels like Schmidt's moving his feet. He's definitely putting in the effort to get up the ice, and he does get there. But in terms of that separation ability, outside of going 100% of your effort, that might be a bit of a question mark. And again, Schmidt's a guy who wants the puck on his stick, right? In the NHL, I would think that going this direction is a dangerous game, right? Certain defensemen will line you up. You could, die. And I think most coaches in this situation would look for him to dump the puck in here, do a little chip and chase, space. He can then go to the net, fill the space. Maybe this guy here can get in and fetch the puck. There are options here, but what happens is Schmidt carries it into traffic, and now you're in just an unwinnable scenario, right? The only real way out of this reliably, I mean, they do manage to get the puck kind of towards the net on this play, but if someone, whether it's 23 here or Schmidt here, can just kick the puck back out to the boards where 28 can pick it up, but that requires some pretty advanced vision, and it doesn't happen. But this is kind of a situation where I go, yep, he's a really good skater, really high-paced guy, loves to put in the energy, but again, this has been a bit of a pattern, and this is the second clip, and we've seen it again, where it's just this focus on carrying, focus on handling the puck, when in the NHL, you gotta be really, really good in order to do that, and I'm not quite sure he's there, but we're still early in the video, so we'll see where we go from here. And then he does stuff like this, right? So Schmidt's not on screen right now, he's off screen kind of this way, and just watch what happens here. This is just the pure fun factor of Cameron Schmidt, right? Right between his legs. He tries to go back between his own legs to make a play there. This is what he's capable of. And obviously, if you're an NHL scout, you're not always just the most interested in the fun things that a player can do. But again, this guy is a player that may very well be a second round pick. And the skill level with him is really, really good. He's a guy who, on that play, pushed his way to the net. He did not just take a shot from the perimeter. He challenged the defender head on. And I like to see that in players. Whether, you do it with a between-the-legs move or two between-the-legs moves, as he does here, or you just power your way through a defenseman. I don't care how you do it. Just don't take your shot from the blue line here and try to get to the net, right? Like, there's a lot of players who probably will get into this area and just put it right on net, right? And challenge the goalie right there. But Schmidt doesn't do that. He tries to get to the net, and that's a tendency that I think you need to know. Again, this is the pluses and minuses of Cameron Schmidt on display. So Schmidt's here on the offensive zone entry, gets the puck, stops up, leaves that defenseman behind, puts the puck back between his legs, and it doesn't work. So in the last play, we saw him challenge a defenseman head on and just not get a shot off. Here, he challenged a defenseman head on again and another forward again, and it didn't work out. I think in this scenario, again, you just don't want a turnover in that kind of a situation. You have lots of open ice to work with here. There's a passing lane open here. It's nice that he stops up and makes a gap here, but to think you can fill this space, you need to be really, really quick. And I think the fact that he doesn't get in there and fill that space and instead gets a gap closed on him by another Portland player here is pretty indicative of maybe some of the limitations in his game. And here I would want him sending the puck to someone here or into open space here where someone can maybe pick it up in stride and then get it on net. But instead you get nothing. So obviously, these things can be coached and these things can be worked on, but Schmidt has seemed to be a player who is not the most systems-oriented, maybe, and relies on his abilities and his talent, and that some people will love that, some people may not. This is what I mean when I say that guys like Cameron Schmidt have to be perfect in the NHL. There is little to no tolerance for smaller guys who are not the most involved outside of the offensive zone for any kind of bobbling of the puck or turnover generation or what have you. And here, this is a pass reception, and look at all the room he has. In this situation, and this is a thing that happened a few times, and we'll see it in some of the data that I have. In this situation, you have to get the stick on your puck and make a play of some kind here. And he tries to stop up, shake off pressure, and he turns it over before he even gets into the offensive zone. These are the kinds of things, to me, if I'm a coach, that are really frustrating, right? Everybody else on the team did the right thing. There's three guys on the opposing team in your defensive end, so you have the numbers if you can get these guys out of the zone, and you've got the puck out of your end. This defenseman did the right thing, putting it into space, and Cameron Schmidt is wide open here. So I'm not sure exactly, it's not the best pass, but not even getting the puck into the offensive zone when you have that much space and time, people are going to hold him to a higher standard, right? This is a guy that you think is your offensive piece. So I think the expectations, rightfully, for a guy like him are going to be really high. And this is the kind of thing that just can't happen multiple times. And I've seen it happen with him over the course of the season. Obviously, I'm only going into this deep because I think there's a lot of potential here, right? It's just a matter of the bar being really high for guys like him is all. This is another thing that drives me nuts. Again, you see the talent, right? You see the pace of play here, the skill level. Schmidt's here. So he just gets the puck off the face-off and just watch what he does. Skill move, back out, but then he just curls back to the blue line and puts one on net from the blue line. To me, I've seen guys do this all the time. Just pull the puck out to the perimeter, out to the blue line, and put one on net. You're not going to score from there, right? Number one, you're almost certainly not going to score from there, especially when you've held on to the puck for a second and a half. But also, you're being challenged by a guy. You have a lane to an open man here. There's not really many guys in front here causing havoc, making traffic in front. It's just not a very good shooting opportunity, and this guy is the biggest threat to me. If you put this puck off this guy and he blocks it, and the puck comes this way, you now have 1, 2, 3 guys that are all probably going to just jump on that loose puck and get in a rush on the way back. And you have 4 of your line mates behind 3 of these guys. So it's just a risky call for something that just is not going to go in the net. And this is another example of Schmidt showcasing really high end talent, but just frustrating tendencies and risky play that definitely could be avoided. This is another play where I think you see glimpses of what might make Schmidt an NHL player that can play, that can at least chip in outside of just scoring goals. And I think on this forecheck, I'd love for him to be a little bit harder on the forecheck here against number 8, but I think he is doing it a little bit tactically, and he does take the guy into the boards and causes a turnover in the offensive zone, or at least a retrieval for his team. He puts enough pressure on number 8 here, where the support from, I believe that's 20, can help him out, and they managed to gain possession in the offensive zone. Obviously, not the hardest forechecking play here, but he gets the job done. And I think as a coach, you can at least note that this is something that he can do, that he's willing to do, and I think you can work with moving forward. This is, I believe, from the playoffs, and this is a lot more of what I'd want to see out of Schmidt, and he almost loses it again here, right? Here's Schmidt. He's got the puck on the exit here. He's going into the neutral zone. He skates directly into pressure here, right? This is not a situation where you're going to get through, right? The only lane is here. 44 is backfilling here. It's just not going to happen. Either you find a way to get the puck kicked out back to the boards for this guy, or you just dump it in deep. But what he ends up doing is creates enough lateral motion for himself on this blue line entry, curling back towards the middle here, that now he's going to send the puck into this open space for this guy, which is the right high-end play to me. It's a nice attempt at a pass there. It could have been maybe a little more on the nose, but it's the right idea. And that drawing in pressure and then diffusing it by sending the puck to a teammate, that's what I want more of out of him. And that's what I saw a little bit of in this game that I remember. And just that ability to get into some of that open space, find a little pocket, and then get rid of it. Find some space off the puck when someone else has it. Don't try to do everything yourself. And from there, I think you can go a long ways with a guy like Schmidt. So this was pretty promising for me to see as an example of what I would, if I'm a video coach, carry forward for Schmidt if I'm sitting with him in a room and trying to see where to go from here in his career. So this play is indicative of a few things, I think. And number one, I want you to watch Schmidt here. So Schmidt's this guy on the right wing. He'll get the puck and he just runs this rush himself all the way up the ice. Stop me if you've heard this before. Watch how quick his feet are moving. That's number one. He's a guy who really pushes himself to get up the ice as hard as he can. That pass, once he gets in the offensive zone, I didn't even see it coming. I remember that when I was watching this going, okay, this guy is advertised as a pure goal scorer, but there are playmaking instincts here. Like, he goes so deep into the offensive zone. He's almost basically at the half wall here, right? He's halfway, more than halfway into the offensive zone, and shipping a pass back that far to this guy, drawing all these guys really deep into their own end. It's just a really, really high-end idea and a really good pass that is handled pretty well from number 7 there to get a decent scoring chance. But the other thing I wanted to note is we talked about this a little bit earlier. He moves his feet, which you cannot argue, right? But that's what he has to do in order to reach a really decent speed. And this is why I time guys blue line to blue line, because it can be deceiving, especially on video, just how fast a guy is based on how quick their feet are moving. And it's a bit of trickery sometimes. And so I timed Schmidt on this one, blue line to blue line, and he approached almost 2 seconds. And this looks like a really high effort move here from him to get from blue line to blue line. Like, he's not taking it slow. And approaching 2 seconds blue line to blue line in a game scenario, in the NHL, you can get away with that, but that's usually guys who are a lot more efficient with their skating. They don't take as many strides. And with Schmidt, I mean, I've seen a lot of young players, and I mean a lot of them, who are around 1.8, 1.7 seconds. Sometimes the really fast guys are even quicker than that in a game scenario. So if you have a really small guy who I would say in terms of actual speed on the ice is slightly below average for an offensive winger, that is a problematic combination, right? Because I look at him and I go, what are you going to get out of him? You know, he will get stronger in time. So is he going to get faster? Maybe. Like, the strides are pretty short, and again, the bar for a guy like him is going to be extremely high. I mean, think about if you're an NHL coach. It's a nice stick check too on this play as well. I should point that out as well. It's a nice little stick check to cause the turnover that gets them going, but it's something to think about. You know, I don't think it's a be all end all, and like I said, there's going to be a point in the draft, I think, where Cameron Schmidt's available, where in terms of upside and offensive skill and scoring ability, he's probably going to be one of, if not the best options available. But these are the kinds of things I think when people look at really high producers in junior hockey when they're in the NHL, I think these are a lot of traits that people look at and go, there might be a bit of an issue or a hurdle getting them into an NHL role that actually works consistently. This is just a fun little pass here, again, like showcasing that Cameron Schmidt is more of a playmaker than I remember him from the previous season, right? Last year he was just a shot machine. Holinka tournament this year, shot machine, but he really seems to have improved his ability to slow down, play a little bit more dynamically, and hit guys with passes in stride. And he is capable of doing these things that are not entirely self-driven, which is promising to me. This isn't a guy who constantly was just never passing the puck or anything like that and never trying to make plays in the offensive zone. In fact, his slot pass attempt numbers, as we'll see, are actually probably higher than you would expect. So for Schmidt, yeah, there's just a lot of things that are maybe questionable, but you got to be very careful not to overcorrect and be overly concerned with these things. So this is just a nice little play I pulled that highlighted just a moment of some inside driven playmaking that Schmidt, if he's going to be this size and maybe not the fastest guy in the world, will need to incorporate into his game a little bit more. This play is what you're drafting Cameron Schmidt for. And this is why I look at him and I go, yeah, he's probably going to be drafted too late because of the kinds of things that we've gone over already in this video. But this is why he shouldn't be drafted, too late. Just watch him on this play. You'll know who he is. I don't even need to circle him. I'm just going to let it play. He is just so skilled and such a great shooter. That release is unlike many others in the draft, and that skating ability to evade and swing wide like that, there are not that many guys in this draft that play like this. And so for me, this is an indicative thing where I'm going, yeah, this is a guy who definitely can score. And there's an argument to say, yep, he's got power play upside, but where does he play in an even? And yeah, there's an argument he can play on the power play, but where does he play in an even strength scenario? I mean, I think he's aggressive enough and rambunctious enough that like a third line winger with some bigger physical guys would make some sense, and you put him out on the power play. But that depends on the coach. That depends on the team that's picking him. But you have a guy that's capable of doing this in the draft class. There aren't that many of them. And so if you get a guy who even in the NHL scores, as a full-time player and scores, 40 points, 45 points a season, that's pretty good. Even if there are some hiccups along the way, guys like that can be good per dollar value. And maybe Schmidt's one of those guys because there is talent, lots and lots of talent here. So here we see it again. This is where Cameron Schmidt makes you want to kind of pull your hair out sometimes, but in this play, he finds a way out of it. Gets that pass on the exit. Again, he's skating. Look at the direction he's going. He's skating directly into this. There are three guys here, right? You got to, there's a hole here. Get rid of it. You've got a trailing forward. You can make it work. That's what ends up happening anyway. He stops up, gets it around Hiroki Gosic there, which he got the job done, right? I said earlier, I don't care how you get the job done. In this situation, he very nearly, that's not where you want to turn the puck over, right? When you just get inside the offensive zone here, the last thing you want is a loose puck in this area where, say, 26 could turn around or 29 could turn around and just get out of the defensive end with the puck. You don't want to be turning the puck over here. So again, these extra quarter of a second moments of handling the puck can mean the difference between a turnover and a continued offensive zone possession, right? These are the little things that I look for that matter. Now, he pulls the puck around Gosic here, which I saved as a high-end sort of play. That skill to anticipate contact, play off contact, that's something people are looking for. But again, the standard for him is high. It needs to be. And this is a risky play that worked out this time, but is it going to be a thing that you can do in the NHL? Again, I'm only highlighting what the concern might be. I'm not saying it's not going to work. It's just a concern, right? And when it comes time to a first-round draft pick, that's where kind of things get a little murky. But the fact that I can at least see him stop up and pull the puck around a guy like that is a good thing. It's just when and where to do that is the real balance point for me. So this is is just really, really good playmaking in the offensive zone here, right? So Schmidt is on the far side here. He's going to get the puck and kick it out back to the half wall here and just send a really nice pass through a really tight passing lane here. And it's pretty darn good, tape to tape, and they managed to keep an offensive cycle going. So it's not like Schmidt doesn't pass the puck. And it's not like he can't pass the puck over long distances or through small lanes. It is there. That ability is there. And so that's something to note as well. That ability to, not just take the puck there and put it on net like some people might advertise him as a guy that might do that kind of thing. But to see this and see it executed pretty well is a good thing to note as well. And here's another one. So Schmidt is getting the puck below the goal line here. Will not even take a second to think about it. Just slaps it back out. That's a dangerous chance that could have been had there. So Schmidt, he could have maybe taken the puck for a wraparound, done more himself and whatever, but this is a good indicator of, this is a guy who, if he has his head on straight, if he's looking around, if he's scanning for other options and thinks really quickly and executes really quickly on puck touches, there's potential here, and he can do these kinds of things. That's what I'm looking for, so that's what I'm always noting, is stuff like this. Schmidt gets a point on this, and it's not a goal, so it's really cool watching what happens on this play. So Schmidt gets the puck along the half wall here, and so obviously he doesn't have the, I would say, ability to generate a ton of speed and cut into this lane himself and get a scoring chance himself. That's pretty complicated and maybe not the best idea, but he holds onto it for a second, and look at this passing lane that he looks at, right? He gets the puck through here clean to this guy. That's just a really, really high-end pass vision moment, right? Bang, bang, and it's in the back of the net. So it's not a primary assist, but that's entirely driven off of Cameron Schmidt's play off the boards there and that pass off the boards, which is really impressive. And for a guy where, again, people talk about him as if he's just a goal scorer. He just scores goals. This is more than just a goal scorer. This is a guy who is capable of making some really nice passing plays in the offensive zone. And I think if you reinforce that and nurture it and make him more of a dual threat offensive player, then I think there's a ton of potential for him as an offensive player. This is just a clip to highlight his release. I mean, it's just unbelievable how hard this guy can shoot the puck, right? You'll see him enter the frame at the last second here, getting a shot on net. Bam. It's just a ridiculous shot. Super quick. There's a reason he scored so many goals this year, right? There was some traffic in front. There could have been a goal there. Maybe you would want him to fake the shot, cut to the net, whatever. But I mostly pulled this clip just to highlight that as much as this guy has some playmaking moments we've highlighted, he's still Cameron Schmidt. He still shoots the heck out of a hockey puck, and there's a lot to like with him. All right, so here's Schmidt again with a pretty nice shot from the top of the high danger area here. Just bang, tries to put one in, but then he follows up and on the forecheck here just keeps the puck in their offensive zone here, causes that turnover, and they manage to cause another chance on net here. And then he does it again. So again, I don't want to come off as if Schmidt doesn't try or doesn't care or anything like that, because people don't say the nicest things about this guy sometimes. And I just see this guy as such a tenacious player with the potential for more. And on one hand, he can be frustrating, but on the other, you just watch him sometimes and you go, if he can do stuff like this and just constantly be an applicator of pressure off the puck in the offensive zone and try to generate these turnovers, there could be something here. And especially if this is a guy that slips in the draft just because he's kind of small and a little frustrating at times, I think that if you look at his moments in isolation and what he's capable of, there's a very intriguing player here, and I think this is a good highlighter of a few of these things and a few of the reasons why. And again, this is another one. So Schmidt is here just off the puck in the open ice. He does what he needs to do. He has open space here. He's got, again, the yellow brick road. The Munchkins in Munchkinland have welcomed him to town, and this is just a good play. He tries to funnel the puck back into the middle to Lipinski here with kind of like a hard pass, quasi shot thing, and then physical pressure below the goal line, knocks the guy out of the way, keeps pressure and keeps possession in the offensive zone. Just a really, really nice play from Schmidt here. And maybe it could have been a little bit better on his own stick, but a lot of this is the right idea. Quick pass to try to get it out in front of the net, quick hard pass bordering on a shot, then on the follow-up, forecheck, separate a body, get the puck back, keep it going. Good stuff. Sometimes people just want to see guys score goals, right? I mean, I got to give the people what they want sometimes, and here's Cameron Schmidt just hammering a puck into the net. Bam. On and off his stick insanely quickly. Like, if you can shoot like this, there's gonna be a coach out there who will find a way to put you into the lineup to score. It's just, you don't find that very often, you know? On and off the stick that fast. Yeah, maybe being a pure finisher is not the easiest job in the NHL, and it's a high standard, but I think he brings enough outside of this to at least challenge for a role. And if he can get out on the power play, yeah, There's a lot to like here, I think. And here's another one from the same game where he scored again, and just another simple one, boom, on and off the stick. No ifs, ands, or buts, no second thinking, just get it on net. You're in open space. It's a one-touch play. You've driven the goalie wide, easy goal. Good stuff. So one of the things people say about Cameron Schmidt is that his defending is not amazing, and I think that's just people looking at his size and just dismissing him right off the bat. But look at him here. He's covering for a defenseman. He's skating into his own end, and look at what he does here. Just finishes a check, boom. Pins a guy to the boards, and again, 5'8", does what he can. I'm not expecting him to be Tom Wilson out there. I think that's crazy, but I at least want him to be physically present, so to speak. I think about a guy like Connor Garland when I think about a Cameron Schmidt from time to time, where Connor Garland, I think, is faster, higher pace, more energy, but it took time to get there. Connor Garland wasn't an immediate success on the third line in the NHL from day one, but he was a very, very, very talented player who eventually became, I would argue, one of the more exciting and consistent performers for the Vancouver Canucks now. And so with Cameron Schmidt, seeing stuff like this, that ability to at least go into the boards, throw a hit, close out that play, I want to see these kinds of things. That's just a checklist thing that you gotta have if you're going to be a guy like him. This is another play where I want to see more of this when I watch Schmidt, right? So Schmidt will get the puck here, he has it, curls out to the blue line and gets rid of it immediately. No overthinking, no hero puck, not doing everything himself. And this is where I think he's going to need to really, really maximize what he's doing. So I think this is a really good example of the kinds of things that I think Schmidt probably really needs to rely on every single shift. And again, playmaking, especially as a shooter, can make you a lethal offensive threat. Beautiful pass. That's a high-level playmaking move there, I think. Cutting off that pass into the neutral zone, motoring right back into the offensive zone. And here, the number of times that I see young players just get into this area of the ice and just put it on net, it's astounding, and it blows my mind how often this happens. And the amount of times you score from here, like the number of times I see spray charts for games and teams are shooting from this area of the ice and they're not scoring, but then they shoot 6 times in a game from here and score 3 goals. It's constant. It is constant. And so for me, watching a guy like Schmidt, it is very easy to criticize him as a guy that will shoot from here all the time and will just shoot from wherever because he's a shooter and that's what he does. But to also be a right-handed shot and send a pass on your strong side out to the face-off dot here for a scoring chance is awesome. It's really good stuff. And so for me with Schmidt, obviously that anticipation ability, cutting off that brutal pass out of the offensive zone, beautiful pass, boom, you've got a nice shot on net. Again, this is something that in the video room I carry forward and I go, this, if you're going to be a shooter, stuff like this will maybe come up on a pre-scout for you, but if you can be unpredictable, then I think you get a lot more out of what you can do offensively. This is just a few clips that I pulled before we get into some of the areas of improvement that we haven't covered already of his defensive play. So Schmidt is a guy who is going to need to chip in defensively, and this is him in front of the net here causing that turnover. So this is good. Tie up that stick. His teammate comes in there, helps tie up sticks as well. This is the kind of thing you're going to need out of your wingers, especially a guy like Schmidt, and it's at least something to put on the checklist that you can say, okay, I've seen him capable of doing it. He's not a guy that will just give up on plays like this, so that's a plus. This play is exactly why I do not like this cowboy hockey around the offensive blue line kind of play. This is in Vancouver's defensive end. I'm more complaining about Portland here. So just watch what Portland does here. They carry the puck out to the blue line, right? Again, to me, no. Bad. Don't do this, right? Keep it down low. The cliches are cliches for a reason in hockey. And so now what have you done? You now have created a situation where there's pressure here, and this is Cameron Schmidt right here. Boom. He's got a lane out, and he's got support. It's just the worst place to turn the puck over, and here he goes, right? Now, this I labeled as a bad shot because he just kind of pops it on net and misses the net there. If you're going to be a goal scorer, you got to look like you're about to score a goal and make the goalie do some work there. And I feel like on that play, it was, you could have maybe done a little bit more and whatever. I'm being a little nitpicky on that. It's more about that anticipation skill from Schmidt and why plays like this that Schmidt took advantage of can be scary and bad and not good, in my opinion. Again, anticipating that turnover, bad place to turn the puck over. Here comes Schmidt and he misses the net. I mean, he gets his chances, tries to follow up on the forecheck there and put a puck out in front, but then he gets the puck right back. So this is a guy who's kind of all over the ice and kind of brings a lot of really fun stuff and some moments where you just want to like rip your head off. So gets into the offensive zone, again, misses the net. Probably don't want to be missing the net when you're in alone, but he gets his own rebound, puts it out in front, and then gets it again. Like, this is how he is. This is just what Cameron Schmidt is. He's kind of all over the place, and sometimes it's really fun and awesome, and sometimes you live and you die by the sword, I guess is what I'm getting at. Again, really good read off the puck in this situation here from Schmidt. He's stuck to this guy along the boards, and then they just kind of make a really not so good attempt to start a breakout with a cross-ice pass. This pass is headed this way, and it is tape-to-tape direct to Cameron Schmidt instead of this guy. So what does he do? Gets the puck and misses the net. So again, if you're going to be a goal scorer and you're in alone against a goaltender, you can't score if you miss the net. I'm not saying this was always the case, because he did score a lot of goals this year, and we've seen him score some goals in this video. So to me, I mean, it just means there's a lot of headroom for him to maybe score 50 goals in the WHL or 60 goals instead of whatever he did this year. So maybe there's a lot more room to go if he can just challenge goaltenders a little bit better on a more consistent basis, but he's doing fine as it is. That was a nice anticipation skill off the puck, but hit the net, kid. Okay, so now we're going to get into some of the stuff that wasn't so awesome, and I know it sounds like I was quite critical of him in the first part of this video. It was more just highlighting the ups and downs in conjunction, where you get a lot out of him sometimes, but also you want more out of him in other times. But it's all to be supportive, right? It's all to be, you know, what you're capable of, what you can do, what's possible in your game if things just get tweaked a little bit. And this is just stuff that I think you're just gonna either have to live with or really understand on a deep level if you're gonna draft this guy. The number one thing, first off, is just that Schmidt is, again, not the fastest guy in the world, and also, yeah, sometimes not the most defensively engaged. We've seen him capable of it, but this is a guy who, if he's not moving his feet, he does not take up very much geographic space on the ice. He just doesn't, just by nature of how big he is. And so that's why he really needs to move his feet in order to be active and play. That's why I think he needs to be a super, super active stick-based forechecker in order to get away with being a more offensive-leaning guy. And getting caught flat-footed with a slap at a stick, standing still in your own end almost, is, you know, coaches aren't going to like it. And this is another part of what I mean by just not taking up geographic space, right? So Schmidt's the right winger up here. This is Carter Sutherland, who I believe is about 6'4", maybe 6'5", and not a great skater. Like, he's pretty good, but Cameron Schmidt is the dynamic, offensive, fun guy. And Sutherland just takes him for a walk here, and Schmidt is nowhere near him and gives him a lane right to the net. Now, I can't say I want to be like incredibly critical of Schmidt here, but this is what I mean by not taking up much geographic space, right? He's way behind the puck here, and it's a nice play from Sutherland in transition or in stride here just to take it, spin around, and go for it. So this is what I mean. Like, the quickness is going to need to be elite in order to really be a contributor where he needs to be a contributor. I don't think it's the end of the world here. I think it's a nice play from the opponent, but take this for what you will. Again, I can just show this clip and you can kind of see what the issue is here. Just not taking up much space, being pretty easy to beat on that defensive entry, and slowing down and not putting in the effort to really close those gaps and really challenge puck carriers. To me, this is where I kind of get a little bit skittish, because again, the standard for Schmidt's going to be really high, unfortunately, because he is such an offensive leaning guy with so much offensive tools, and he is really small. So on this play, just not being able to really be much of a factor at all. It's a nice play from the guy who's carrying the puck here, and Schmidt just is left behind. But the thing is, for me, like, I don't really care about how big you are really at the end of the day in hockey, but like, if you get the job done, you get the job done. But this is where size does come in handy. If you're 5-6 inches taller than Schmidt here, maybe this is a successful stick check, right? And if you're 5 or 6 inches taller, maybe this is a successful stick check, right? Or physical contact that causes a turnover, but he ends up stopping, giving them a gap, and now they have the puck down low. So it's not all his fault. I don't want to make it sound like that, but hockey is often a game where one little move, one little play, one little misplay, one little bit of space that you relinquish can be the difference between winning and losing. So if you can find guys who minimize those things, those bad things, and maximize the good things, you're going to probably win more often. And Schmidt's a guy of give and take. There's moments where you really love him, and there's moments where you just have to, I think in this situation, he's not going to grow 6 inches. He's not going to just magically get huge. So you might just have to live with maybe some defensive rush moments where he's just not really much of a factor. Here's another one where he actually is involved and is actually challenging at the offensive blue line, but again, just not effective. He was one of the less successful blue line transition guys defensively at causing turnovers, and this is a good indication of why. It's just, he's sometimes there, he's sometimes in the right spots and everything, but the execution and the success is just not there. And that's, to me, for a lot of coaches, probably going to be unacceptable, where if you're stick checking a guy, like in this play, there's 2 stick checks that he's involved in and he loses both of them pretty easy. So I don't know. If this is a thing that happens once or twice, it's fine. But this was a bit of a pattern for me. He's a rambunctious guy. He'll attack you along the boards. He does have that capability. But in these types of situations, like, this is how you end up with offensive players who might have 40, 50 points in an NHL season, but you look at their defensive metrics and they are just a black hole of relinquishing chances in their own end. And you go, well, how's that possible when they're fast and they're intense and they're physical and all of that? But it's these little moments that add up over and over and over again that you just kind of end up giving up some chances in your own end. And all it takes is one for it to be a -1 in the situation. So it's just a thing to highlight, and again, something to work on as well, because these guys, these types of players, they're gonna skill move around you. They're gonna, at the NHL level, they're gonna find ways to get through you. And so if you can find ways to prevent that from happening, the more often you do that, the better. So this is also just from earlier in the year, which, keep that in mind. But this is something that I also saw as well. Schmidt's not really doing much off the puck to really affect 19 on the opposing team here. This gap is really, really big, and these guys are just not much of a factor for Vancouver. And this is just giving 19 a really clean lane right to the net. And Schmidt is just not putting in the, I would say, work to back check enough on that. Maybe it was the end of a shift. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this is the kind of thing where you watch him on video and you can just go, I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? It's just, you see it and you just go, this is a guy who we really want scoring. And if he's not scoring, what is he bringing to the table? And again, this is one of those things where it's like just allowing a gap like this, and not having the quickness, the speed, the intensity level to close this gap and challenge. We've seen him capable of it, but this was an example of something that you can see where you go, okay, maybe this is why some NHL teams are a little bit spooked about this guy. Now we have what I would say is probably the most concerning thing, and we've touched on it a little bit in this video, but really it's a combination of the overhandling and the overconfidence with the puck, wanting to do a lot himself, but also that he is a guy who's kind of easy to knock off the puck and get possession from. He doesn't shy away from contact, I would say, but contact against him is a pretty easy way to cause a turnover. This is why I think he's got to be a guy who is going to really need to depend on quick puck touches, on and off his stick plays, really, really smart vision, and you might just have to deploy him in offensive scenarios and shelter him with other guys. This is just an example where he is just losing possession of the puck, I would say, a little bit too easily. And again, not getting a stick on the puck there and getting removed from it. It's one of the things that I think is going to be an issue, is this ability to resist pressure and consistently be a dependable guy when the puck is near him. If I am a coach, this makes me crazy. This is a great example of what I'm talking about. Schmidt, here he is, right? Again, not the fastest guy in the world, which whatever. Stop up at the blue line? Okay. Do not do that. That's not acceptable, right? If I'm a coach, I'm looking at that and I'm going, what are you doing hot dogging the puck at the offensive blue line just inside the offensive zone, right? You've done the work. You've done the hard work to get the puck there. So why waste it? What are you trying to do here, right? Don't even, like, this is where coaches just go dump it. If you can't get through this situation, if you can't make the cut and carve into the middle of the ice, which maybe Schmidt could be that type of a player, maybe, but I would argue that maybe the best play here is to just dump it into the offensive zone. But this is just not what you want. Leaving the puck behind after deking out a defenseman, that's a bad turnover, and they could be coming the other way. So this kind of stuff, honestly, for some coaches, probably only has to happen like once or twice, and that's it, right? Like, they're just like, I can't trust you, right? You're an offensive guy. You've done the work to get the puck into the offensive zone, and that's where you're supposed to shine, and you're turning it over as soon as you get there, right? And that's not the first time we've seen that. So it's something to be very aware of. And for me, if I'm coaching him, I'm going, we got to get rid of this and just make it a never ever thing. If you've got skill, that's amazing. Great. But when to use it and how to use it is arguably more important. Here's another one. And I would make the argument that in the defensive zone, doing one of these things is worse, right? So Schmidt gets a breakout pass here, right? I always look at this and I go, what's the situation that you're skating into? What are you dealing with around you? And for me, you have all this, if you're Cam Schmidt, on this pass reception here. The last thing I would expect, if I am pausing the universe at this moment, the last thing I would expect and want is Cameron Schmidt to touch the puck and turn it over. And what happens? Cameron Schmidt touches the puck, tries to deke out this forechecker here and try to go this way, and leaves the puck behind. And now they have a turnover coming the other way. And now they have possession, right? And then he doesn't cause a turnover after he causes his own turnover, right? This play is another frustrating one where you see the guy, he's got skill. That you can't deny, and this is kind of why I've grown up a little bit with my analysis in terms of skilled players, where skill is one thing. If you can move the puck and you can do all this fancy shimmy shake stuff, that's great, right? And it can help you score at this level. But if you can't utilize it reliably and in positive ways, and at the end of the day, you're causing a turnover, coaches aren't going to care, right? And then especially if you turn the puck over and then don't get it back immediately and they manage to establish a cycle against you, that's frustrating. And so for me, if I'm looking at this play, obviously you don't want to just send a grenade that is inaccurate and could be cut off. But there is a lane here, and we've seen Schmidt pass the puck through tight lanes before where he can get the puck into open ice, and maybe there's something that can happen in this region of the ice, right? Flip it as high as you can, flip it into the neutral zone, something, but anything but turn the puck over halfway into your own end, halfway out of your own end on a breakout. It's just not what people are really looking for a lot of the time. I don't want to post this to make fun of this guy at all, honestly, but this is also probably a reason why NHL teams might be a little skittish. Schmidt tries to do the chip and chase thing here, which I think you kind of do need to do. If you're Schmidt, you need to recognize an option like this. He puts it right into the skates of this opposing defenseman. But in terms of a chip and chase, it's still the same thing, I guess. It gets him behind him, but then he just bounces right off of him and hits the deck. And I love Cameron Schmidt overall. I'm going to say that. But this is another reason why NHL teams are a little skittish, because they go, this is this rambunctious, intense guy, but getting the job done and actually doing what he needs to do and cause turnovers, that's where you kind of go, okay. If you have a kid who's as admirable as you can imagine, he's 5'7", tries as hard as he can, great personality, wonderful person, but every time he tries to throw a hit, he ends up on the ice and the other guy doesn't. I love to see it, right? But either we figure out a way to make you more successful there, or we focus more on stick-based interactions or something, or find some other solution, because this happening is, it's not great. But I don't know. I don't want to pick on him too much. I just am highlighting this because this is the kind of thing that scouts see, right? This is the kind of things that people look at and go, if we're going to make you a first-round draft pick, or I don't know, maybe even a second-round draft pick, what are you going to bring and what are we going to need to work on? And if you're a small winger and everything, and if you want to play physical and intense, which you kind of have to if you're a small winger, you can't be bouncing off your opponent. I'm pretty sure this is from early in the year, but this is the kind of thing from Cam Schmidt that was happening a lot last year, and I'd say the early parts of this year, that people, rightfully so, look at and go, this is a non-starter, right? Shooting from here, awesome shot. The kid is a wonderful shooter. That is undeniable. But this is not a place where you're going to score from, especially with no traffic in front. He's trying to pick the corner here, up here. Maybe that'll work, but look, I saw Connor Bedard do this kind of thing with Regina many times, and it worked in the WHL, and he's kind of struggling to be that high-end goal scorer in the NHL so far. And when you look at his spray charts from where he's shooting the puck from, he's still kind of shooting the puck a lot from places where you're probably not going to score from. So for Cam Schmidt, I would say that this is a situation where you're just not going to score from. Maybe getting it on net, sure, but if I'm coaching him, I'd probably say, if you're going to shoot from here, go for the rebound, right? Trust that these guys are going to go to the net and go for the rebound, because picking this corner from this angle, maybe you're a good enough shooter to do it, but statistically speaking, it's not likely. Again, this is just one of the last clips we're going to show, but taking it out to the blue line, literally to the blue line, and then losing possession will drive people crazy. It will drive people nuts, right? Keep it down low. Dump it if you need to. Just get rid of it. Obviously, I think this area of the game improved for him over the course of the season, but yeah, this is a playoff game, and again, it's something that people are going to highlight. Scouts are going to look at this and go, how does this turn into a goal against, right? How does a guy with this much space, this much room,
how does this turn into a goal against? Like, that's something scouts are going to look at and they're going to go, no, we can't. This is not a reliable player with the puck on his stick sometimes. That's just not dependable. Turning this into somehow a goal against. Now, it's not entirely on him, but it starts with him, right? That is a questionable pass decision under pressure from an extremely good WHL player in Andrew Crystal, and he doesn't cause the turnover after he passes it away. He does finish his check there, but I think he knew on this play that it didn't go his way, but this is the kind of thing scouts are going to look at, and it's not the only example, but they're going to look at it and go, can we trust this guy as a first-round draft pick, right? Here, again, in the playoffs, he bites too early on an offensive opportunity here in his own end, so Schmidt is here. Now he's got a man right there. And what I want you to do is watch how many times he shoulder checks on this play to keep an eye on this guy, because the answer is 0. He does not even really look at him. He's watching the puck. And the guy just floats right behind him. I'll play the whole clip, but he just floats in right behind him. Schmidt's not really looking too active in this play, jumps in before there's an opportunity to get a rush going. Puck goes right through him, and it's in the back of the net. So again, this is why people look for guys who can scan, who shoulder check, who are aware, right? This is what people talk about, I think, when they're talking about hockey sense, or at least this is a discipline within it. Your awareness of where the opponent is, especially in your own end, staying tight to them, and then separating from them when there's an opportunity. Not separating from everybody before there's an opportunity, leaving an opponent in a dangerous area and causing a goal against. So this is the last clip before the end of the video, and Schmidt here obviously gets that chance right out in front. He's this guy, but this is just really fun skating and skill combination here. I think obviously you're taking on a lot of risk by doing this pivot and skating backwards away from pressure like this, but if you can do it and then do stuff like this, then yay, you know, a pass out through the middle of the ice. Maybe it's not the most accurate pass in the world, but again, we're looking at potential and talent and what players are capable of. And this skating ability with this sort of pass vision in the offensive zone, even though it gets blocked there, we've seen him make passes like that in this video. So there's a lot to like, I think. And you got to be very careful about overcompensating and thinking about what you can deal with a player in the future. And I don't know. I mean, there's still some good stuff here. I mean, we've been a little bit harsh, but I tend to do this with players who I think have a lot of high potential, where, like with Kent Johnson, for example, where the hockey sense and the awareness and the timing on things is just not there yet, and the reliability is just not there yet, but they're almost so good that you get annoyed because you think there's so much there to work with and there's so much potential. Like a kid who shoots like this, who passes like this, who can skate, you know, pretty quickly like this, there's a lot of upside, I think. It's just, it might take a little while to get there. And that is it for Cameron Schmidt. So let's summarize really quickly, okay? And take a look at some of the data that I have tracked on him. So I love Schmidt. I think he's got a lot of potential, but he is a long way away. And I think he is an upside bet that you have to accept. There's a chance that he might just be a very good AHL scorer, or a guy that is a really talented player on bigger ice over in Europe one day. Like that is a possibility. But the team that's drafting him is hoping that he's a coachable person who has come a ways in his game, in my opinion, but can come more of a ways in the future, and is a guy who can learn and can improve, because you see the skill. You see the shot ability. You see the flashes of playmaking. You see so many things that you really, really like. And so for me with Cameron Schmidt, when looking at his data profile, it is, I would say, good, but it could be better in some spots. For example, really good offensive transition player, really involved, really good puck carrier, I would say. You know, we saw some moments that were not amazing, but he's very successful there, and he does want to carry the puck quite often. In terms of physicality, he is more physical than you would think. I've registered quite a lot of hits from him. He is a guy who throws his weight around. Is he successful in those areas? Not always, but at least you see him trying, and that's what is more important in my opinion. With regards to shooting tendencies and all of that, yeah, his shot assist values were pretty low, especially when it came to his slot pass opportunities, but the volumes that he was trying those plays were pretty good. The volumes with which he was getting shots on net were pretty good, but for a scorer, I would expect them to be better. There were some games where literally it felt like he wasn't doing much. There were some games where it felt like he was all over the ice, peppering the net with shots from good areas and just being basically dominant in the offensive zone, but that wasn't all the time. On the negative side of things, you'll note maybe from looking at this that his involvement in defensive transitions was near 6%. That's not very good. That for that guy, that's maybe going to need to be higher, but he's also just so small. He is so small and just does not take up a lot of space, and puck pucks can just go right past him, right through him to the point where he's not involved in that play at all. And when he does get involved, the success rate being 71% against him is not very good. So this is a guy who on the defensive rush at the moment is a bit of a liability. Plain and simple, right? I'm not trying to be, a jerk, but that's just what it is. So unfortunately, that's the case. But at the end of the day, what you're getting is a very highly involved offensive zone player that generates a lot of shot attempts for himself and his line mates. Almost half of Vancouver's offense came from him. I think Vancouver as a team wasn't amazing around him, but this is a guy who I think came a long way this year, especially relative to last year. We interviewed him for Game Tape. He was a great kid. We had a lot of fun interviewing him. He was very open about the things that he's improved and what he needs to improve on and where he needs to go from here. So it seems like he's a kid that has his head on straight and has come a really long way maturity-wise since last year, but there's still a ways to go. He's not perfect. In fact, he's quite far from perfect. But for me, he's a 1F, right? He's a guy who I think has elite offensive upside. The shot itself, we've seen it. It's already there. The playmaking ability, you see moments and pockets of space where you just go, yep, that's what you need. It's just the hockey sense. It's the ability to read the ice, be aware, make plays, and be good with your timing and be a good sort of conduit for the puck. You receive the passes, you send passes. You receive the passes, you make decisions. You're a good puck carrier, but you're going to need to be extremely quick in the NHL to do what you want to do. And if he's willing to make that like his life's goal, if that is what he's aiming at, and he wants to be this dynamic offensive presence, then maybe I think there's a chance he gets there. People are comparing this guy to like a Cole Caufield. I don't know if I see that out of him. I mean, he is very dynamic. He's a really great finisher, but I think Cole Caufield had a level of quickness to him at this age that I just don't think Schmidt quite has just yet. I think Caufield has, developed the playmaker's instinct that I think Schmidt has as well. Like, I think there's possibilities that Schmidt gets there to that level, but for me, I look more like at a guy like Connor Garland, where he's aggressive and tenacious and ferocious. Schmidt is a guy who I think he can get under your skin sometimes based on how he plays, and I kind of like that about him. So if I'm coaching him, I kind of go, let's try to find a way to walk the line between being more of an annoying sort of Brad Marchand type guy that's ferocious and sort of more intimidating rather than maybe successful defensively, so to speak, and then we go from there and let you sort of blossom offensively. And I think maybe you could have something there. And again, like, this is a guy who some people are saying might not be a first round pick. A couple of people have told me there's a chance he's not even a second round pick. And if this is a guy who's one of your picks in the early second round and you just take a flyer on him and go, look, if we get a guy who plays in our NHL lineup, gives us 40 points a season, Daniel Sprong type draft pick, then you're laughing, right? A lot of people have some things to say about Daniel Sprong, but wherever he goes, he scores. And Cameron Schmidt might be one of those guys. So for me, I like him, but I think there's a long way to go to get there. Could he get there? Absolutely. So I'm relatively optimistic about him, but he is one of the more polarizing up and down cases in this year's NHL draft. So with that, we're going to call it, and thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, definitely like and subscribe to the channel. If you really liked it, give us a subscription over at Scouching.ca. You'll get access to all of these videos as soon as they are ready and released, and we also have plenty of really fun data tools and visualization tools you can access with a subscription over there. So if you're interested, check out Scouching.ca and get yourself subscribed. And that's going to be it for this one. We'll see you in the next one, and thank you very much.